Designated Survivor series premiere. Now, the reason I'm doing this, I think it's been over a month. This show's been out. I think it's going on its 6th episode. But the reason I'm doing this so late is because I never actually planned on checking this show out. Somebody requested it on another review, so I was like, well, I never get requests, so I always end up checking them out. And I like this one. And also to the person that requested it, thank you for getting me to check this out, because I actually really enjoyed this first episode. And also, I'm sorry that it was so late, because I think it was last weekend. I was like, I'll have it up, really soon. I'll have it up in the next couple of days. And I just didn't end up getting the chance to see it. So I do apologize that it's been like a week or a week and a half since that, I let you know I was going to do it. But I did enjoy this first episode. I knew, like, the tiniest bit about this show. I figured it had to be, because I didn't know what a designated survivor was. I figured this show revolves around someone, I just assumed it was the vice president, becoming president after, the president was assassinated. I was like, just based on the little bit that I saw, I didn't get the specifics, but I'm like, okay, it's very clear that the reason this is so interesting is because it's a guy who takes over for the president after the president was killed. And I figured there would be some mystery, like, who killed the president, that sort of thing. I didn't expect it to be like everybody just died, and this random dude who was in a sweatshirt drinking beer was going to turn out to be the president. So that in itself, when I actually saw the opening of the episode, I was like, oh, this is way more intense than I thought it was going to be. He was just this random, he was about to get fired. He's not only some random guy just who was a part of the cabinet, but he was like the random dude who worked on housing development, and they didn't even think he was doing a good enough job, and they were trying to fire him or move him to like an even a lesser position. And that was pretty crazy. I was like, wow, I didn't think it was going to be that dramatic where it was such a big deal like that, where they killed everybody, they destroyed everyone, and it was insane. So excuse me. So going through it, we have this guy who's he knows the world, but he's not that deep into the government where it's like he's prepared for every little thing. Like, he knows a lot of stuff because they have like the general guy who's like the first dude who's trying to say like this is what we're gonna do and stuff like that, try to control him and also possibly kill him. I would have to assume, because based on the secretive nature, I don't think his idea was to, calmly ask him to step down. It seemed like it was like, hey, let's make this guy disappear and get someone else, to step up. So, we'll see how that plays out. I don't think it'll work too well for the general guy, because unless they're like some crazy writers, I highly doubt they'll end up doing that, where Kiefer Sutherland is in like the first season and then they kill him and then someone else actually does end up taking over. So I doubt that'll actually be the case. That would be insane if they did it, but kind of doubt that that'll end up happening. So we have this guy who's trying to make everything work. The country's in a state of crisis, and he has to take over with all these new rules and things like that. And it was pretty fun. Like I said, I really enjoyed the storyline of the episode. And then we also have the other side of the episode with this FBI agent, who I believe her last name is Wells, but I know she's played by Maggie Q, who I love because she was Nikita. So I was happy to see her in this. She was in some show on CBS, but I guess that got canceled. But I was super happy when I saw her in this. I was like, oh, sweet, that's just another reason for me to keep watching this show. But her storyline revolves around not only trying to find out whether or not, I guess it was like, I would assume like her boyfriend or husband is dead or alive, but she's also, kind of like the important person. She's not even like the deputy director or anything, but she's, the important person within the FBI, where we see her side of the story and how things are playing out. And so, they find this bomb that ends up not being detonated and stuff like that. So we kind of get her journey a little bit through it, and I assume that that's going to continue throughout the rest of the series. But I like the way they did both stories. We got the FBI stuff, especially for this first episode, because it's very separated. Like, it's from the same thing, but, like Kiefer Sutherland's character, whose name I just have to remember, but the new president, actually I think his name is like Kirkman, I think is his name. So he's like just 100% in the White House. Like, that's his thing in this episode. And for, our FBI character, she's out in the field. So we get both halves from this, insane situation. So he's kind of, he's, of course, being the new president, he's stuck at the White House. Like, all right, you have to do this, this, and this. before we can even, send you out into the world, you have to deal with some of these crazy issues. And she's the one where we see, the actual aftermath. We see the debris and all this insanity. So I like the way they played that. I'm sure that'll change because, of course, he's president. So at some point he'll be out in the world. They'll, most likely end up meeting. And I know they will because I actually watched the second episode. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really well done premiere. I'm excited to actually watch. I'm going to watch this series. I know it recently got picked up for a full first season because it's so insanely popular. But I definitely enjoyed this first episode. I thought it was a great premise. It was very interesting. It's like, man, this guy, like I said, I thought it was just, okay, the vice president took over. And that's a big deal. If a vice president has to take over, it means the president either died or was killed. So, that being the case, it was like, alright, that's interesting in itself. Because we've had that happen a few times in history, and it's insane every time it happens. But with it being a TV show, I figured it would actually be, like we've had actual assassinations, and I thought it would be something along that line. But for it to be this, where it's a full-on, it's like a catastrophic event, as far as, in government terms, that's like a catastrophic event. Like, they killed everyone, pretty much, period. They pretty much destroyed the entire government. It's kind of just shut down. Like, there are no people left. There's, like, this one random dude, and he has to find pretty much every other person that he wants to put back into the government. Like, who's good for the government now? So, I love the premise for it. Like I said, I did see the second episode, so it continues to be good. So, I'm excited to go into the rest of this series. But, of course, even though this is like over a month, a month late, but basically a month and a half, because I think it is going into its fifth, maybe it's going into its sixth episode, I don't know. But I would love to know your thoughts on this show. Obviously, no spoilers because I'm super far behind. I am going to be catching up, so I probably won't read comments until I'm caught up because all the episodes are on demand. So, I'm going to be shooting through and getting all the episodes in and doing reviews for each episode as I catch up. But I certainly love this one. I was like, all right, this is interesting. It's like 10 times crazier than I was expecting it to be, and we have this mystery of who did it. The inner workings of not only this man in the White House who might not be qualified, but also people within the White House itself that believe he's so unqualified that they should work to get rid of him, which, like I said, I don't think is going to be, let's just have a conversation and say, hey, maybe you ought to step down. I'm pretty sure based on the general's character, it's going to be a bit more intense than that. So, see how it all plays out, but it was definitely a great premiere. It seemed like a really exciting show based on this first episode, but we'd love to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And because this is, I'm so far behind on it, I can't normally just ask, like, what you guys expect from the season, because you probably see, like, the next 5 episodes or so. But based on, this first episode, do you think it really has the longevity to go into, 4 or 5 seasons? Because this seems like the type of thing that this could easily fit into a miniseries, but I could see it expanding. But there's, it's just a normal, sort of TV thing. It's like, all right, well, we have the first season, which I'm going to assume is going to revolve around him finding, he has to replace the whole government, and he's the president, so he chooses. So he has to replace the whole government, and they have to, of course, find out who, basically destroyed the government, who killed all those people. So they have those 2 elements, but I don't think that'll stretch into season 2. I think the next season, I would assume, would be much more normal. So that's that's the one thing I was really curious about. I was like, okay, you easily have this, but at some point he would just be president. Like, he would, there's still that struggle. Like, the element of him not being prepared, I think could easily stay for multiple seasons. But it just has me curious, like, what are they going to do by the end of this season? It got picked up, like I said, for a full season, which I think typically means close to 20 episodes. I think even for a first season, you don't go past 20 episodes. So I don't know. It's kind of curious. I'm kind of curious to see if it has that longevity and how it'll continue to stay as intense as it is right now. Excuse me. Down the line, where it's like, all right, now we know who did that, and now he has the government rebuilt, and he's still somewhat struggling, but basically he rebuilt the entire government. I think he can handle it at that point. Being president. So, I want to know if you guys think it really has the longevity to go, 4 or 5 seasons, or, something like that. I always think 5 seasons is like the kind of the sweet spot that people do, where it's like, all right, we've had the show, and you kind of cap it off at 5, and it tends not to get like super crazy after that. So I want to know if you guys think it has that sort of longevity, or even the ability to go beyond 5 seasons. If you think it could possibly work. I know it's super early to say because it's not even halfway through the first season, but we'd love to know your thoughts on it. If you think it has the ability to just keep going and staying as intense as it is in this first episode. And of course, I do want to know what you guys thought about the first episode in general, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.